is you.
All right, ladies, we are live. Welcome everybody to Truth 101. Thank you all for joining us for the response, the domestic violence panel that we have put together. We have been super excited about this. We have been talking about it. We are ready to really just sit around the table, as we call it, and really discuss the issues that other people are not wanting to discuss and start the healing amongst anybody who's been affected by domestic violence. So, I want to first introduce myself. I'm Veronica. And many of you know my story. If you don't, I have an episode about my testimony. Please check it out. But I just want to get into my co-host. I have Miss Janet Martinez, and I'll let her go ahead and introduce herself.
Hey everyone, Janet Martinez, as she stated, and I am most definitely a domestic abuse survivor. Trailing back to when I was a child, to be honest, because I became a mother at the early age of 15. Um, I definitely have a testimony, and at the end of the day, there is a way out.
Yes.
Yes,
Thank you for coming, Janet. I appreciate
thank you.
being able to share this space with you. And next, Megan.
Hi, I'm Megan Johansson. I am a domestic violence survivor as well, and just excited to break the silence about domestic violence.
Thank you for joining us today, Megan. And Miss Devin.
Hello, everyone. My name is Miss Devon. I am a 37-year-old mother of three, full-time long-term disability analyst, part-time psychology major, and a domestic violence survivor.
I know that's
And,
right.
it's all packed up in one. So
Amen.
bring awareness to it, let people know that it can be anyone. It's not any specific type of person, no one who even wants it
Right, right.
happen, and to bring a voice to it. So I'm happy to be here.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing that. Welcome. And Miss Ebony, Mrs. Ebony Smith.
Hello. So I'm Mrs. Ebony Smith. I did the first initial podcast, and so as we all know, or if you don't know, I am also a domestic abuse survivor. I am a mother to a large family because I have a blended family. So I have a blended amount of children. I am a wife, a newer wife, which is still in its blissful stage, whatever. But anyway, domestic violence is huge, as far as being something that we just don't talk about. So we are all here to bring awareness to the topic of domestic violence because people need to be more aware and people need to be more vocal and people need to understand that this is not something to be or to feel shameful about. This is something that you need to be able to understand that there are many women that have gone through this, many people that have gone through this, and that you are a person whose voice definitely needs to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so with that being said, I'm also a life coach and a relationship coach. And so it is very important to me to spread awareness and to get the word out, that these things are happening and to help people. Sometimes you don't even recognize that you're in a
Mm-hmm.
domestic situation or an abusive situation because they're not putting their hands on you or it's not physical. So I like doing things like this so that we can get the word out there to say it doesn't have to be physical. There is verbal abuse. There is, all kinds of abuse, narcissistic abuse. There's a lot of abuse out here. And just to be able to help people understand where it comes from and to help people see, just recognize signs in even their day-to-day life as to what this is and what this may be doing to them. So we're going to lead in with the topic of narcissism and how narcissism plays a role in domestic violence. And I guess one of the main things that I want to talk about is how to recognize some of the signs in domestic violence that connect to narcissism, because I think that's important. A lot of people are spouting the word narcissism out. They're calling people narcissists, but realistically, we should know that narcissism is a disorder, but there are people out here that display narcissistic traits. And so I feel like we should kind of touch on that. I think we all might have a broad span or broad view on what we think of all of that. And so, yeah, we're going to lead with that. So whoever wants to add first, let's go.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you bringing up that topic because it is such a widely spread thing and it's such a typical thing that we don't even recognize that it's happening to us, right? We figure it's just normal behavior, someone denying the fact, someone undermining, no, this didn't really happen, someone making you second guess your own thoughts. All of that it comes as narcissism, and there are traits of a narcissist. Does that make a person a narcissist? I don't know. How much of it do they do? That's the way I see it, right? Because I think that everybody has remnants of this in their personality. But if it becomes a habit where someone is really having you think like, is this reality or am I tripping? Like maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe, I did do something wrong. Maybe I did deserve this. Maybe I went too hard. You start rationalizing and you find yourself in that space more than you see a person taking accountability for their own actions, then I would say it's safe to say that you're dealing with a narcissist and you have to identify that and you have to set a boundary. So it took me a long time to figure this out. And so in our culture, I think me and Ebony talked about that before, is something that's just so normal. We don't take it as serious as it is. But if you start seeing these behaviors, that's who that person is. And it's a form of abuse. And so once you start accepting these little parts of abuse, then it just grows and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So that's what I have to say about the whole narcissist thing. It's just, it's so undermined and we minimize it so much, but it's really serious and it is a gateway to other types of abuse.
I have to agree. Just to kind of piggyback off of what you just said, my last relationship, I would literally second guess myself, right? Like, am I tripping? Like, is this logical, right? Like, is it me? Because it was always the lack of accountability, always. It was always the turn of the tables, If he cheated, it was because I blocked him, because he disrespected me in front of my children. Like for me, it's like there's a trend here, and I started to see him do that over and over again. And for me, I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't really know what a narcissist was until I dated my ex. Mm-hmm. And like you said, it is a gateway. Because it was like, it was emotional abuse after emotional abuse. It was the lack of accountability, it was, it got to the point where, he would, like, I would tell him, for me, I don't do drugs, right? For me, a coping mechanism is, to have me a little drink here and there, right? And I would deliberately, because I love the gym. So I would tell him, I'm like, you know what, hey, I don't want to drink this week, like at all, right? I'm fasting. I'm in the gym. I'm trying to hit it hard. I want to focus, whatever the case. He would still bring me alcohol, right? And with us, alcohol was like, girl, that was the devil's playground with us, right? So afterwards, when we would have a conflict or an argument, it was, oh, you're a drunk bitch.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute. I asked you not to bring alcohol in my home. You still bring it in my home, right? You put it out there as if we're just going to have a good time, right? And then something that we've experienced recently happens to come up. We argue about it. I can't tell you, dating my ex, I can't tell you whether I feel that physical or mental abuse. I'm like, they neck to neck.
Right.
Because that mental is like, literally, it's anguish. You're like questioning every day. Definitely not okay.
Definitely a lot of crazy making, making yourself just really feel like everything is somehow your fault because that's how they make you feel.
Mm-hmm.
And um, they are the victim. It's never anybody else's fault. It's always, or it's never their fault. It's always everybody else's fault,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what it is.
Mm-hmm. No, that's really good too. Like what Janet was saying, how they will do something and it seems like a nice gesture, right? To them. I'm trying to do this for you and I'm trying to make you happy and this and that, right? But it's really to your demise, right? And then they use it against you. Like, I never asked for this in the first place. Like, it's such a manipulating tactic, and that's emotional abuse. It's
Correct.
mental abuse too, so it's like
Yeah.
where we may minimize it, it's abuse, and it does
Yeah.
damage. It does damage that it takes a lifetime to repair, because now you're mentally messed up, you're emotionally messed up. For me, remnants of me being abused, I can't really appreciate or respect that this is coming from a good place. Is this an honest place that you're doing this for me, or what's your motive? What is it that you want from me? It's really bad, and it's like we have to get. It's healing. It's healing coming, but you first have to recognize it, right? And you first have to take accountability as to, like, okay, that was something that I allowed, that was something that I accepted, and you have to make a decision that I'm not accepting that anymore.
Yes.
If I say that I'm not drinking, I'm not drinking. Don't bring me any liquor, because now we have a problem. Why are you disrespecting me? Why are you disrespecting my wishes, right? There's nothing wrong with setting boundaries, but people make you feel bad, especially abusers. They make you feel bad for setting boundaries, because you're supposed to want whatever it is that they're giving you, right?
Correct.
Good, you're bad. It don't matter. I'm giving this to you. I'm doing you a favor. How dare you turn down my gift? So we have to take accountability too for what we are accepting. No, I don't want it. Forget trying to keep the peace and I'm just gonna take it. No, I'm putting my foot down. I don't want this. And so I think that's important as a survivor, to start your healing process, is to start developing those healthy boundaries.
Correct. And with narcissism and narcissistic traits, one of the main traits, and you guys can definitely agree, say something in regards to that, but one of the main traits that I find associated with domestic violence or domestic abuse is that a person who has narcissistic traits will oftentimes make you feel like you will start to feel like you're crazy. You will start to feel like you are the one with the problem. You will start to question and second guess, just kind of like how Janet said. You will start to second guess that something is wrong with you. They will have you thinking that something is wrong with you. And that is huge, because what it does to the person that's being abused is it breaks down your nervous system, your circulatory system, because your heart and everything else is affected. Everything in your body from a medical standpoint becomes affected, your mental health, all of that, because at that point you're sitting there thinking that everything they're saying to you and everything that they're doing to you, you are somehow responsible for. You have convinced yourself that you are somehow responsible for all of these behaviors that this person has bestowed upon you. And that is the one big narcissistic trait that I noticed when dealing with domestic violence abuse.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have to agree.
I just want to piggyback off of that. It kind of hit home when you said the part about questioning yourself and driving yourself crazy. For years, I thought it was something was wrong with me. What's wrong with you, Devin? Why are you going through this? This is your third relationship that's abusive. What's wrong with you? And each relationship had different traits, different abuse. So it was the lesser of the evil. Okay. Oh, so he doesn't hit me every other weekend.
Yep.
It's only, after I say something too smart, or I'm nagging too much, or whatever the case may be. So it's not as bad as my last relationship. So it's like, we got a nice house and we have 3 cars and, things like that. So you overlook all of the damage that it's bringing to your mental, your physical, you're breaking down. You have no relationships with your families.
Yes.
Astray. And, you know, when I think about, you know, just thinking about this topic coming on here today, I was like from 19 to the age of 30 in abusive relationships.
Yeah.
And prior to that, I seen a narcissistic father I had. So it's always been my norm, you know? So it's like every time I seen someone, it was kind of just like, okay, if he doesn't talk back or stand up, he doesn't love me.
Yeah.
And, you know, I might have missed out on the nice guy because I like the one who, you know, snatches me up every so often. And it's like, in my mind, I twisted thinking that that's what I needed, you know, because I have a strong personality. I need someone to keep me in control, and being in control made me be a shell of who I am.
Yeah.
And it's like now at 37, I'm sitting here like, I could have did this and did that and been this, and I'm sitting here trying to figure out who I am. And now I got an 18-year-old who I recently found out she was in an abusive relationship. So it's like, oh, okay. So was it due to something she's seen with me, you know, and trying to unpack that. So
right.
So let's shift gears for a second. So I wanted to also, because like I said, the narcissistic traits, I wanted to kind of lead in with that. But then I also was thinking, so, you know, I talked a lot in my last podcast about the physical and about how physical, we often spend a lot of time on the physical abuse piece of it. When it comes down to mental abuse, what do you guys feel, I guess some things to look for, or some things that women should be aware of, or people should be aware of, because I won't just say women, but people should be aware of when dealing with emotional abuse? Because, you know, a lot of people trick themselves to say, well, he's not hitting me, he's not doing this, all he's doing is gaslighting me, all he's doing is cheating on me, all he's doing, or all you know, it's always that. But what are some of the characteristics or things that you guys think that you've witnessed, gone through, experienced from an emotional standpoint that would help somebody else in that predicament?
For me, with emotional abuse, it's not validating my feelings. It's undermining my feelings and minimizing my feelings, saying that, oh, it's not that serious, or you're blowing this out of proportion, or sorry you feel that way. All that type of language. No, don't be sorry I feel this way. Be sorry that you made me feel this way. Take accountability for it and do something different, right? So it's any type of language like that. And once you express how you feel about something, if they blankly just show no regard for your feelings, if they don't change it, if they don't make any attempts to do something different, to me, that all wraps up into emotional abuse, because it's like, I'm telling you how I feel. These are my feelings. This is my emotion. And you're totally disregarding me, right? So yes, it's abuse, and it does damage, because then you start to think like, well, maybe I'm asking for too much, or maybe I am blowing this out of proportion, you know, maybe it's not that big of a deal, but it is though, you know. So that, for me, that's what I recognize as the emotional abuse piece.
I have to agree. I have to. I'm over here like, oh my gosh. So I have to agree, because I used to go through that same thing, to the point where we would have an argument about something, and before he would leave the house, he would say, okay, you ain't got nothing to say, right? Like, I'm not gonna go to work and then get a whole bunch of text messages, paragraphs and whatnot about what you feeling. And I'm like, And then what else did it for me though? I had to water myself down in that relationship. I couldn't be myself. Right? And at the end of the day, if you have to be something that you're not to be in a relationship with somebody, that is abuse. That is abuse, because I'm a social butterfly. Everybody that knows me knows that. I love people. I love everybody. I speak to everybody. When I would go out with him, it was like I had to have blinders on. And God forbid, oh my gosh, please don't let nobody speak to me. I visited home, because I'm from Minnesota. I'm in Texas now. I literally visited home with him one time, and I kid you not, I hated to even ride down the street with this man because I just, oh Lord, please don't let nobody see me. And it's just when you have to change who you are as a person to try to appease somebody else when you know that you're really not a bad person. Like, you know what I'm saying? The behaviors that I am distributing are not bad behaviors. Like, I'm not disrespecting you. I'm just being friendly. Hi, how are you? Hey, hon, how are you? You know what I mean? It was always a problem. I was on eggshells, like 24/7. And when Ebony mentioned the mental health, I kid you not, I've always been an anxious person because I'm a single mother and I got 5 children. Always been an anxious person. But once I got into that relationship, and I would try to blame the pandemic. Oh, the pandemic's got me paranoid. I'm paranoid. I have never had to be on anxiety meds. And I'm being so transparent right now. I literally have been on meds for the past 2 years. And I try to think back, I'm like, God, what happened different? Like, okay, yeah, we had the pandemic, right? But I've been through worse. You know what I'm saying? I'm a single mom. Told you I had a child at 15. I'm like, you know what? It's got to be this relationship because I'm a better person when I'm not with him.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know?
And I like how you just said how you took ownership and accountability, because let me tell you, I have clients. I'm a relationship coach. I'm a life coach. So you would not believe how many women on a daily basis are messaging me or in my inbox. You know how many women do not own? They will say everything else under the sun is affecting their mental, has caused their depression, has made them take, pills and want to kill themselves, all this other extra stuff. They will mention everything else. They will hone in on everything else, their kids, their anything, but that man, woman, whoever, who is causing them the mental strain and the mental abuse and who is sending them through the hell. You taking accountability for that shows that you have healed in the aspect of understanding that your mental health is being affected by another human being. And guess what? It's okay for that to be something that we realize, because I think sometimes as humans, we look at it like, I know damn well this ain't because this person, I know it ain't about this person, because you don't want to believe that you are like being affected by another human being like that. But guess what? That's life, and you are being affected by another human being. I posted that picture of myself this morning. I look 20 years older in 2014 than I look today. Come on now. That's because I allowed somebody on a daily basis to make me feel like I was worthless, like I was nothing. And the only thing that I was supposed to do was be a mother to them kids and do what that person needed me to do for them. Lose me, lose myself, lose my mental health, watch him drink himself to a coma, say whatever he wanted to say to me, do whatever he wanted to do to me. And these are the things that I endured for 7 years of being in that relationship. So when you said that, a lot of women need to take responsibility and be okay with understanding that, you know what, motherfucker, you are a big piece of why I'm affected. You are. Now I got to do what I got to do to get the fuck away from you so I can start healing in other areas of my life.
Right.
Simple.
Yep. It's the real thing.
And I think that until somebody can actually get to that point, Ebony, like as we've talked about before, until you're actually to a point where you're like, okay, what role am I playing in this? What am I allowing?
Yes.
What flags am I choosing to ignore, right? Until you get to that point, you're stuck. You're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Because listen, that man is going to string you along as he can.
Okay. We have to stop rationalizing, when we're in these relationships or in these situations, we have to stop making things okay. Like, oh, well, like someone you said earlier, you start making excuses like, well, he having problems with his family, his parents are sick, his dog died. Don't nobody care. You know what I'm saying? You have to stand your ground and you have to start setting boundaries for yourself, because once we've already allowed so much, kind of like it's hard to go back. You know, it's kind of
Mhm.
hard to regain control in the relationship. So you might have to just cut your losses and
Mhm.
just go, you know, because once
Mhm.
you come to a place where a person has gotten used to disrespecting you, where it's becoming a normal thing, and then you say, okay, well, I'm going to stand my ground. That's for me. I'm like Miss Devin, you know, she talked about how she had been in abusive relationships for multiple years. Me too. And that's how it started. Because once I started putting my foot down and started saying, okay, no, you're not going to talk to me like that. You're not going to be cheating on me. You're not going to be staying out all night and I'm not saying nothing. That's when the physical abuse started. But the emotional and mental, all that been had started, right? And since he was getting away with that and I wasn't saying nothing when I started on it, now here comes the physical abuse. So we have to come to a place like Janet and both Ebony said, to where we're like, no, you're a problem. You're causing me mental health problems. You're causing me all type of problems, and I'm
Mhm.
done. And I won't sit here in front of nobody and say that part is going to be easy. That's going to be the hardest part, because that's when they're
Mhm.
going to really turn up and really start
Amen.
acting crazy and really start, you know, trying to really scare you into dealing with something that you don't want to deal with. But this is when you determine how bad do you want your freedom. You know, you don't have to be stuck in that bondage. You don't have to take that. You don't have to live that way. But it's going to take some work. You can't be a yes woman no more. You're going to have to be the woman that says, absolutely not. I'm not doing that. I'm not accepting that. And if you don't get it together, I'm leaving. Period. You know? So it's you know, we don't never want to make it sound like it's easy, because it's not, but it's doable. But you have to be able to tell yourself, self, you have to be accountable. I'm going to do this, you know, whatever it takes. If that means I got to pack up and move or put him out or whatever the case may be, I'm ready to do this, to stop this, because it doesn't get better. You know, maybe you could go to some counseling, but it depends on how deep you are. So many different factors. If you've been dealing with this for 10 years and now you're trying to stand on your own too, he going to look at you and laugh, because why now? Right? Why are you all of a sudden now saying all of this, right? It's too far gone. So I just really wanted to throw that out there too, because it's like, yes, we need to hold ourselves accountable, but we also gotta put forth action to our accountability. It's not just saying, okay, you know, I'll let you do this to me and I'm stopping today. Okay. What else are you gonna,
Nah.
you know what I'm saying? Like, you're gonna have to put some action behind those words.
Yep.
You know what did it for me? And this is, and I've been in a couple of three abusive relationships, to be real honest. Um, so what did it for me, right? I had to have a conversation with myself. I was like, okay, knowing what you know today about this person, everything you know about this person, literally, no change, no nothing. If God said to you right now today, there's no, this person is going to be the same person 10 years from now.
Mhm.
Will you do another bid? Will you do another 10?
Yep.
No. Hell no. Given what I've already been through. So that was when I told myself that in my last relationship, because I got 2 children by that man, you know, and when I told myself, I says, you know what, Janet, you know today that you're not gonna do another 10 years with this man. So what is the one thing we could never get back?
Time.
Time.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? I'm 39 years old, you know, and for me, it's like I've wasted time on relationships that I knew were not fit for me
Mhm.
or anybody for that matter.
Mhm.
You know, but it took for me to ask myself that. So, you know, just to piggyback off of what you said, like, yeah, you hold yourself accountable and then you figure out a plan.
That's right.
I relocated on that ass, okay? And when that man called me the next day and said, "Where you at, girl?" Y'all know Kevin Hart, that part where he was like, "My mama said," and he went in. Girl, let me tell you something. When I tell you that man was like, I know she done lost her mind. Who's she talking to like that? Girl, I'm clear across the country. I'm in Arizona somewhere. This man in Minnesota. I said, your mama, your daddy, your everybody. Everything I
Right.
felt, girl. And it was like 10 years of just pressure. And I was like, I'm done.
Yes.
And I just had this sense of relief. And it was like, whew, but it took for me. And sometimes it takes that. Sometimes you have to, you know what? You got to go.
Yeah.
sometimes you just gotta go.
Yeah,
And that was 2010. And I ain't been home since.
I know that's right.
Beautiful.
Hmm. We gotta love ourselves. We teach people how to treat us, you know.
Amen.
And it could come from a place of being naive and us giving people grace, you know, like, okay, well, I'm not perfect, but how much of that stuff are you willing to take? You know, how much of yourself are you willing to lose on the account of somebody else? Because it's also just like now I'm being somebody who's really not me to please you, you know? So it's
Yep.
like we have to draw that line. We have to. And another thing is like the way people come up, you know, like we all have things from our childhood. Like Devin was talking about how her dad was a narcissist,
Mm.
but we are kind of like in that place us in our 30s and 40s that we come from a group of men who used to run their households. They paid the
Mm-hmm.
cost to be the boss. So they told women what to do and how to do it. And that's a lot of things. And society put men as a superior of, he's superior over a woman, and it's a double standard. But it's we don't have to live that way, you know. I think
Mm-mm.
that Ebony talked about like how it is. Some people use religion, you know, in that
Yeah.
sense. No, that's not the way it was meant to be. That's not the way that it's supposed to be, and it don't have to be that way. You know, I don't care if you were raised that way. Now you have an opportunity to make it what you
Yep.
want. You have the opportunity to say, no, I'm not going to live like my mother did, under scrutiny of her husband, going through the things that she went through just off the sake of staying together. What good does
Mm-hmm.
that do to the children? They end up being like us, women who have experienced abuse in the household. And it's a pattern that just keeps going on and on and on. You know, it's just time for us to do our part as women to change it, right? Because they're
Right.
going to do whatever it is that we allow them to do. We teach them how to treat
Yep.
us. So once we start saying, no, I'm not doing that. No, I don't like that. You know, then things can start changing and stop being attracted to the stuff that we're attracted to. Because I'm like you too in a lot of ways, Devin, when you talk about those rough guys, you know, oh, he got to be able to handle me. And then he be the one to mishandle you, right? Because it don't have to be that way. You know, so it's like sometimes the one you want ain't the one you need isn't the one that you want. So we have to be mindful of these things as we're in the dating pool and we're out here looking for men. It's like we got to switch up our style too, because yes, maybe it is something about us that we keep attracting these men, that we get into these relationships and it turns into them being abusers. You know, they were abusers when we met them, but what did we decide that we didn't want to see just to have this relationship? You know, there's so many different aspects for us women to take accountability and control over our own lives, right? Because if we don't, guess what? We're gonna get in a relationship with them and they're gonna take control over it.
Yeah.
And Devin, I felt what you said when you were like, I need somebody to handle me. But you know, this is what I told myself, right? Because I'm aggressive. I'm a very dominant woman. I like to blame it on being a Taurus, but
I'm a Gemini.
honestly, ultimately, I feel like we've been conditioned. It's almost like fight or flight, right?
Yep.
When we're under distress, right? Because God didn't make us to be strong. He didn't make us to be leaders. He didn't make us to be that. He made us to be wives. He made us to be equal. He didn't make us so that we had to fight and had to, get and tussle. We're supposed to be delicate. We're nurturers. And I have to keep reminding
Exactly.
myself of that. Like, you know what, Janet? Because that's my thing too, Devin. I'm like, well, I need somebody that's gonna be able to handle me. I'm an aggressor, so he got to be an alpha male because I'm an alpha female. But is that really what I am,
Right.
or is that just what I've had to be?
But you've been conditioned to
Yeah.
learn to
Yeah.
take and accept and be. It's
That part.
definitely what it is.
Yep.
That part,
Definitely.
because girl, I'm tired. Shit, I don't know about you, girl, but I'm tired of being strong. Shit.
And I think we are all tired. I mean, I think we've all endured and we're tired, and that's, and when considering a mate, like with my husband, I had to take into consideration, okay, I need to also understand that am I not just connecting with him for the sole basis of the fact that he does not physically, mentally, or emotionally abuse me like my ex? Am I ignoring other signs to this
Mm-hmm.
not being a good thing because it's better than anything that I ever had?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you have to question that, because it's like,
Mhm.
I've been in bad relationships. Okay. I was in a really bad marriage, but am I overlooking because this feels better than anything I've ever experienced?
Right.
Am I really looking at him for how he really makes me feel? Or am I looking at him because he's different and he's not exposing me to the traumas that I've dealt with before? And am I just accepting? So those are
Yep.
things you have to look at when you get involved with new partners and stuff after dealing with a domestic violence. Because I don't think a lot of people really deal with that aspect of their lives, or really actually sit down and hone in on that. That's important. I had to do that very early on in a relationship, maybe within the first 2 years. Because I'm like, I don't have it in me to do another 7, 8 years of this shit. I'm not doing this. So what
Right.
I need to do is I need to analyze, okay, everything's been great. Everything's been good. My life has been good with this person. But I'm comparing the fact that he don't do this, he don't do that in my mind. He don't do this. Well, he don't do this. Well, he don't do this. But am I looking at him as a comparison only, or am I also allowing him to show me his realistic traits too? Because just because he's not an abuser doesn't mean his traits were some traits that were going to be good for me, and for me to be able to say I want to be this man's wife or be with this man long term. You know what I mean? Like, we have to it's trauma that makes us that way. It's trauma that makes us compare what we had to what we have, and suckers us in sometimes to thinking we have something great, when in all actuality, it's not great. It's just something
Better.
mirroring,
Mhm.
what it's not the same type. It's not abuse. It's just
Yeah.
not something that works for you. And so I
Mhm.
had to really do that. And I know that's not something a lot of people think about. When you're getting married or getting into these relationships or being with new people and they're not doing all these things, you're accepting of them more because they're not doing the shit you're used to people doing to you. And I just say that
Mhm.
people need to hone in with who they're
Mhm.
involved with or who they're getting involved with at this point, and really look at them versus the fact that they're not doing what the abusers
Yeah.
do, because
Mhm.
you want healthy relationships. I mean, that's what it's
Right.
all about. You want to work towards having healthy relationships. And
Right.
the same thing with your friendships. I mean, because when you're abused in relationships, the same thing goes for your friendships as well. You have friends that abuse. No, they're not hitting on you or beating on you or whatever, but friendships, people that sit up and talk about you, or people that sit up and keep up drama in your life, or really don't like you, or develop weird obsessions with you, and all kinds of, you got to really think about all the people you have in your life, and you need to really, really hone in on different types of abuses and different types of behaviors that are not acceptable from a whole. So
Yeah.
when we talk about abuse is huge mentally, but mentally we also need to be able to decipher from what's abuse and also other characteristics that are not healthy as well. That's
Yeah.
something that abused people have a hard time doing,
Yeah.
just from what I've seen.
Yeah.
I was
I
going to
agree.
add one thing when she was saying, what would be something that you would say to someone so they can be aware and pay attention to it before it stops or starts or whatever? Red flags. I mean, how many of
Yeah.
us have got a red flag from someone and you're like,
Mhm.
oh, no, maybe I'm tripping.
Mhm.
That's not real. No, he didn't mean it like that.
Yeah.
And it's like you pursued on with this person and years go by, months go by, and you're like, okay, when he grabbed me up and almost choked me the first time,
Right.
and I acted like it was because I said something smart. Now that I have this black eye or broken arm or whatever the case may be, now I'm saying, okay, I could have stopped this 5 years ago or 7 years ago or 10 years ago. And it's like, what are the main red flags that women, men, people need to be more aware of to say, okay, this is not for me. I need to step away. Yes, I might like this person. This person might, check off the majority of the boxes that I have or whatever the case may be, but this is not correct. Like, it's that feeling you have. How do you not ignore that? Because I'll say I've ignored it. I don't know how many times in my lifetime. So it's like, how do you get past that, feeling like I'm tripping, and then once you're in it, how do you not settle for that? Because now you know it's wrong. You know it's wrong internally. You're like, why am I going through this? Why am I crying? Why am I feeling bad? Why am I allowing this person to treat me like this? But you're still there. So how do
Right.
you get past that settling to say, I don't need this person? I love
Right.
myself more. How do
Right.
you regain that strength within yourself, to not even go through that for the long term? Because years, I mean, I don't even understand how I can look back and say I was dealing with things for so long. And then it's I, like Janet was saying, forgiving yourself. I don't even know if I've ever forgave myself. And I'm
Mhm.
in a whole different relationship. And it's like, am I bringing that baggage? Is that, something that I'm bringing to environments that don't need to be there? You know what I mean? Even friendship.
Yeah. Yeah.
I noticed I wasn't a good friend. Is it because of the fact that I haven't healed, mentally, physically, all of the above? So yeah, it's my mind can go on and on. So that's why I've been
Yeah.
quiet.
I think that state of mind too, y'all. I think that what state am I in, right? Again, to piggyback off what Ebony had mentioned, like what are some red flags, right? What are things that we could look for? Like for me, why am I dealing with this person? Am I dealing with this person because I'm lonely? Am I vulnerable? You know, or like what state of mind am I in? Right. And again, that brings us back to the accountability because whether we know it or not, chances are we weren't in that right state of mind when we chose to deal with these men.
Mhm.
Whatever that may have been, we might have been picking up our pieces from the last relationship. We
Mhm.
might have still been dealing with childhood trauma. We might have been dealing with, being a single parent and just looking for somebody to be there. You know what I mean? Just whatever that state of mind you're in, because I can honestly tell you that anybody that I have been with that has been in my life and been abusive towards me, I wasn't in that right state of mind before I started dealing with that person.
Mhm.
My ex, I moved here in 2018. I didn't know anybody here, So for me meeting him, I was like, yes, right? Like I know somebody. This is great. He's being consistent, he's taking me out all the time. We're having fun. Like this is great, not realizing I was in a lonely state. I wasn't in a state of mind of, okay, I got clarity. I
Mm.
know what I want. I know what I'm not going to deal with. And I know what what I'm saying? I know what I'm worthy of. I wasn't there. I wasn't there. So it was easy for him to just slide in and just be like, okay, well, you know what? She good with a few dates, a little consistency as long as I, show her a good time, she's good. But it's like for me, when you start to really date somebody, you have to be in that right state of mind. And whatever that might be, if it means healing, forgiving yourself, getting closure, journaling. I mean, journaling has been a big thing for me. Girl, listen, listen, I got my okay, everything I want for me. I have an abundance. I mean, I meditate, every morning. I try to just listen to the word of God and I try to motivational speeches, whatever it is to get your mind up and going to a point where you're in that strong state. Until then, I don't feel like any woman should really, put herself out there and
Yeah.
be vulnerable towards a man because we living in a new world. And these men, and not all, because I know it's some good men out there, but there's a nice handful, and yeah, they
Yeah.
got them narcissistic traits.
Yeah. It's like they looking for prey,
Yeah.
and we are the ones that are getting preyed on because they recognize that we're not in our right state of mind. They
Yep.
recognize our vulnerability. They recognize our desperateness, right? Because if you're coming out of a broken relationship or abusive relationship, like Ebony was saying, it's not so much even about them displaying abusive traits, but here are these red flags, stuff that you really don't like, but you're looking like, okay, well, it wasn't what dude used to do, so I could deal with this, but
Right.
you really can't deal with it because in your mind you're thinking, well, once y'all get together, he'll change these things. Well, no, you accepted him the way he was. He knew he was falling short. He knew you loved it. And so he's like, this is what she's willing to accept. I don't have to go no higher than this. You understand?
Mhm.
We come in, they're
Mhm.
right here. They don't have to exceed here because we're already loving them at a right here. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
it's like, again, it's us. How we feel about ourselves is showing in the type of people that we choose to court and date. You know what I mean? And like you say, you have to have clarity. You speak about, getting closer to God. The Bible says, be alert and of a sober mind. That means going out to the bar, having a couple of drinks, and then picking guys up probably ain't the best thing for you to do. Because I
Right.
know for me and my journey, that was it. I clubbed a lot, I partied a lot. So I ended up dating men that we partied a lot with, but once
Right.
we get sober, we started to realize, like, hey, I really don't like this guy.
Right.
Probably doesn't really like me that much. You know what I mean? So you have to be like, this is your life and it's on the line. When you've been in abusive relationships, you recognize it as such. But when you haven't and you're just naive and you're just dating, having a good time, you don't recognize the type of danger you're putting yourself in, being out here not in the right state of mind trying to date. So I thought that was real powerful that y'all said that, because it's the truth. You have to be healed. And me and Ebony talked about it before. Like, there's a certain level of healing that you get to not dating, right? And then once you do start dating people, you start realizing, like, it's a whole nother level of healing that I need to do, because now you do have somebody who's triggering you and who's showing you like what's not all the way healed in you. So then you take your time while you're dating and make sure that you have those boundaries set. It's like, okay, this really makes me feel not good. This is
Right.
something that I probably just can't deal with. Not overlook it because you say, okay, well, I feel this way because my ex was this way and it's me, it's not him. No, you need to validate yourself and say, no, this is bothering me. I don't know if I
Right.
want to deal with this, because now what you're doing is re-traumatizing the trauma. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
Mhm.
It's not healing. You're just putting stuff on top of it, and now you're just blaming yourself. Well, he's not like that. He didn't do that. But what he does make you feel a certain type of way. You need to address that, and you need to ask yourself honestly, like, am I okay with, if he never rises above this, am I okay with this? Because
Mhm.
if you're not, you stop your healing, because now you're still dealing with the same thing, just in a different form.
Yes. That's what
So
I was exactly. That's exactly what I was saying.
yeah, so
Exactly.
we have to own it as women. We have to.
Mhm.
That was the reason I left my last relationship. One of my good friends, she asked me if he was never to change, and he was exactly the same he is right now, would you be okay with being with him forever?
Hmm.
It took me about 3 days with no sleep, not eating, not going to work. I mean, I literally thought it out. Like, when I'm making a change in my life and I'm going to leave or do something drastic, I really take a moment to think about the ins and outs, what my life would be like, what my kids would be affected like.
Right.
And after that third day, I was like, I got to go. And I literally packed up, and I didn't move out of state like Janet did, but I moved. And when I moved, I, took the keys, we changed the locks. And once I had all my stuff out, I told him, come get your stuff because we gone.
Right.
You can't figure out where we moving to. So, yeah, that's the only reason why I think I got away from that situation, because it could have went longer than
Mhm.
6.5 years,
Mhm.
of I don't even know where to begin. It was so much of a roller coaster. You get the presents, then you get, something happens bad, then you get, dinner and new shoes
Yep.
and new clothes and jewelry, and then something else bad happens even worse. And it's like, it's just the ongoing,
Yeah.
dysfunctional cycle, which happened so long for all them years, where I just got fed up. I didn't know who I was anymore.
Yeah.
I'm going
Yep.
to ask each one of you and to answer this individually, because it's important to me to know about you as women in general. Because so I'm going to go back I'm going to use 7 as a magic number. What is one thing about yourself that you 7 years ago would have condoned that you in present day would not condone when dealing with relationships?
I can't stand a liar. I could have used to overlook it. Like, okay, it's a little white lie. Don't hurt nobody. Nah, don't even give me the remnants of anything that you thought. No, tell me the truth. Give me factuals. And I just feel like a lie is a gateway to so many different things. A lie could be a manipulation, right? A lie could be deceitful. A lie could be so many things, right? Because of the things that I've been through in my previous relationship, trust is huge to me. And I can't take any leaks at all, at all. So if you say you're going to do something, do it. If you don't do it, you're lying. I don't need an excuse, period.
Right.
You're a man, make it happen. And if you can't make it happen, then I would rather you say to me, I don't know, I'll try. Right? I would
Right.
rather you pick, I need you to be careful with the way that you speak to me. And that may be very particular and it may be a little bit too much, but it's what I require because I'm going to think about what I say before I say it to you. So don't just tell me whatever it is that you think that I want to hear, because then I'm wondering, what are you saying that's truth? And what are you saying that you're just saying to make me feel good or, satisfy me? So that was something that I would have tell me, whisper sweet nothings in my ear is how I used to be. Make it sound good, but not no more.
Amen.
I would have to say fear.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
I used to fear my relationship in Minnesota. Like, I was scared. Um, there were times where, I would sleep in the living room just to make sure that if he came through the door, my kids were in the back room and safe, and he's coming for me, he's not coming for them. So he'll make it to me before he makes it to them. And then they don't have to see or hear what's going on. I was really scared in that relationship. And then one day, I don't know what happened. I must have grew wings because one day I was like, you know what? What's up? I was like, listen, either you gonna do me in or I'm gonna do you in. But I'm tired of being scared. I'm tired, and I kid you not, I feel like, and I have to reference God and how important he is to me, because I remember a day in specific. I was laying out in my living room and he came to my door, and he was, he's knocking on the door, and I'm like, oh my God. And I just prayed. I said, God, please. And I just prayed and I prayed and I prayed. And this is coming from this man didn't kick my door in, so he didn't have a problem with getting in. He's coming in, and I prayed and I prayed and I prayed and I prayed. And I remember he left. He just left, and I was like, gosh, like, thank you, Jesus. And from that day forward, I was like, you know what? I don't have to be scared. I don't have to be scared. And even right now to this day, my ex is a narcissist, the one I was just dealing with here in Texas. And we had one physical altercation. And I promise you, he walked away with some lumps and bumps too. And I'm not proud of that, but I was defending myself. And I say all that to say I'm not scared anymore.
Right.
I'm not scared. Whereas before it was like, take cover, you know what I mean? Whereas now it's like, listen, we're not supposed to be doing this, but you're not going to, this is what we're not going to do. We're not going to do that.
That's right.
So that's one thing about me that's definitely shifted. I'm no longer scared. I am no longer scared by the
Beautiful.
grace of God. Megan?
I think one thing is like just not being on eggshells, being myself around a person now. 7 years ago, I was dating a guy that I kept going back to, I think because I was so used to the abuse. He was the first guy that I dated after my divorce. And I think like I was just used to it. And I think for a while, being apart from him, we'd start talking again. Things would get better for a while. Like Devin said, get the flowers, you get the nice dinners, that kind of thing. but that whole cycle just continues. I know recently I've talked to Ebony. I'm newly engaged for about or actually it's longer than that now. So it's been about 6 months that we've been engaged. I'm in my first healthy relationship that I've ever been in since I started dating when I was 17. For the last year and a half, I've been in my first healthy relationship, and believe me, that's scary too, because you know, I think you get so used to that abuse. Different. For me, it's been a lot of emotional abuse. There was definitely some physical abuse. I do realize now that my now ex-husband was the most lethal type of abuser. He strangled me a couple times. I wish I would have been smart and called the cops then, but I wasn't. I think, you know, like Janet had said, you know, giving yourself that apology and, you know, forgiveness is like a big thing. And just, you know, being with somebody, be in a friendship, be in a relationship that you can just be safe and be yourself with is a lot. And realizing that, you know, you're not on eggshells with, you know, it's not good to be on eggshells with people.
Yeah.
I can agree. 7 years ago, I was in probably the worst part of my last relationship. It got so bad to the point where, looking back at that, there's no possible way I would be able to allow a man to put his hands on me,
I know that's right.
to jump at me.
Mm.
I would probably be in jail because I can't see myself going back to that, you know. And it's like everyone, like you guys said, you know, being in new relationships, friendships, there's still going to be things that you don't recognize right away that may be abusive or may not be healthy. But as far as abuse goes, ain't no way. Ain't no way I could go back to that. No. And I think, like, I'm not even attracted to that type of man anymore.
Amen.
It's so crazy to me because it's like that was the type of man I dated, you know, the non-working, self-employed entrepreneur type man.
We know about them. We know about them, girl. The one you can't get no child support from.
Exactly.
For real. We know about
Yeah.
them.
I see men like that now, and it's like, you know how you just cringe a little bit?
Yeah.
Like, oh no.
Yes,
My
girl.
ex. Ooh.
That's growth. That's growth, girl. That's growth.
For me, 7 years ago, one thing, and I've been really good with it for 2022, man. It has been 2022 has been, as far as like not taking nobody's mess. I don't care who you are. I'm saying what I want to say. I'm saying it how I say it. You gonna interpret it however you gonna interpret it, but I'm coming from a good place when I say it, and that's just how I would have been a person that set better boundaries. 7 years ago, I had none. I mean, I raised a child that wasn't mine, and I love him from the pit of my soul, but I would have never taken on the responsibilities of allowing other people to put me in predicaments that made my life hard for the sake of being with somebody. I think I would never condone just being with anybody just to be with somebody anymore. Like setting boundaries and just feeling the need to be with someone because I didn't want to be alone is huge. I think you couldn't melt and pour that on me today. Like I look back and I'm just like, for real. When you think about all the things that you've endured, like we've all just had some very key quality things in regards to where we were. And I use 7 because 7 to me is a number, it's a good representation number. So when you look back and you're like, okay, 7 years ago, we all have taken and done major growth in just that, not even 10 years. That's just 7 years. 7 years that we are not in the same place mentally that we were 7 years ago, because ain't no way. Look, you're not doing what you want to do. You're not coming up. You're not saying and don't want anything on me that you think I'm going to do because I'm not doing it. I don't give a damn who you are. I'm not doing it.
Mm.
If I don't want to do it, Ebony's not doing it. And
Right.
that's just where I'm at. My taste in men has changed drastically as well. Like I think in that last situation, it was more along the lines of I wanted to be different. I mean, he had a good religious background growing up. And so I wanted so badly to, have like I told in my last podcast with Veronica, the Black family look like something. It just seems like there's so many different stigmas about how the Black family just doesn't work. And so I wanted it to work, and I wanted to go to the Kingdom Hall and read the Bible and be the mom who got her kids dressed up, and we went to the hall together, and I wanted so badly to make that work. And I'm just not about to force nothing anymore in this lifetime. Life is too short. Like, I'm not forcing it. So
Yeah.
setting better boundaries and standing on what the hell I put out there,
Mhm.
So 7 years ago, I would have never. Today, I'm standing on that and I'm owning it.
Yeah.
So
That's powerful. I'm so happy and so grateful to be able to share this space with you ladies today. I'm 1,000% sure that some chains have broke off of a lot of people, not just women. I'm even looking in the comments. We have men in the comments like this was a good conversation to have so that they can hear us uninterrupted, sharing our thoughts and our feelings and experiences with this. So I could see something coming, something else for us, because this is good. I feel like we have so much more to
Yes.
talk.
let's go.
Let's do it. Let's do
But
it.
I tell you, after the last one, let's go because
Let's go. Yes. I will be in touch. But thank you, ladies, for coming
yes,
on. And
Thank you.
yeah, we're gonna keep in touch. We're gonna keep this ball rolling.
absolutely.
Okay.
All right, y'all.
Yep.
All
Have a
right,
good
y'all.
evening.
Have a good night.
Take care. Good night.
Yep. Bye.